with the cybersecurity protection landscape, there's your services and your solutions. So if we discuss services, it really starts with advisory services, okay? And the advisory services, that could be anything from assessments, incident response planning, penetration tests, all sorts of things, right? And we'll get into that a little bit more. You have managed services, okay? Having another entity or a third party help you manage all of this security problems, right? And all of the threats that are out there, all of the solutions that you have to put in place to provide good protection for your business. And then the integration, right? How do you integrate all of these solutions together? So if we want to dive into some of these solutions, I'm not going to cover every one of these because we could talk for quite a while on each one of these, but I'm going to highlight some of the things. The cloud we'll get to, of course, but from an endpoint standpoint, endpoint is really addressing that mobile workforce, that mobile user, okay? It's anything from your traditional antivirus, okay? Intrusion prevention, application whitelisting, hardening, patching, all of those things that we need to address on the actual endpoint. And it's morphed now into malware protection, DNS protection, and more monitoring and visibility these days. So it used to be more about signature-based, antivirus types of solutions, but now it's much more. We're putting a lot more emphasis as far as security goes into the endpoint itself, okay? Especially when these users are very mobile. Well, network security, that has been around for quite a while. Your traditional next-gen firewalls, denial of service attack solutions, IDS, IPS, securing your network, right? But where things have headed nowadays is embedding more security and visibility and analytics into the network itself, okay? So on-the-wire type of security, meaning why have it go to the perimeter security firewall, right, or internal firewall? Why send your traffic there to be filtered or to be protected, okay, or to be segmented off from other parts of the network? What are some things that we could do on the network itself, at the wire where the desktop is or the client is connected to, both wired and wirelessly, okay?
Yep.
So we're seeing a big push for, SD, WAN, SD access, and a lot of that is opening the way for more network segmentation within a business, okay? And that offers much more visibility into what's happening, okay?
The message I'm kind of hearing from you here, Aaron, is I don't think anyone is under the illusion that perimeter security by itself is a solution anymore, and that's been the case for a while. But the complexity and the reach of security into almost every element of your IT sort of infrastructure seems to be pretty present here. I mean, is that kind of the point?
Yeah, that's right. And what often goes overlooked, especially for smaller organizations, and this is my next topic on the solution list, is threat intelligence.
Okay.
Having a good SIM. A lot of customers feel like having a good SIM means I have to have, a big staff. I have to have a lot of cumbersome solutions in place that require a lot of manipulating of the data and the policies and just overseeing it, 24/7, and that's not the case anymore. So there's a lot of solutions out there that can provide you a SIM, security incident and event management solution, that can, truly correlate all your data, bring back all your logging, and help you take actions against this, against the data that a lot of your solutions today can communicate back to a SIM. So that's huge. Again, it's often overlooked. Again, use the SIM in conjunction with solutions that help with user behavior analytics. So it's not just like taking in logs anymore. It's about, okay, what are these clients doing? What's happening between them and the applications? What's happening with them and each other? right? That, what's not normal now, right? We've normalized all this data, but how do we now see, how the behavior has changed and to provide data so that we can help better protect our business. So that's a big thing. Another area is identity management and access. It's so easy to steal accounts. It's amazing, in today's age that, user accounts, whether it may be email or domain access, accounts get stolen all the time. And how do we provide better two-factor authentication solutions, multi-factor solutions that can help better protect us against, regular authentication and identity access that we do today. So that's a big one. And then finally, incident response. Incident response solutions are really something that you want to take very serious. There's a lot of programs and vendors out there that you can work with, including us, to help provide an incident response solution, guidance, project management around an incident response, and all the things that go into it. There's also vendors that have, they'll offer cyber, kind of like war games, right, for you to attend and be part of a real incident, right? And I definitely encourage customers to take advantage of those type of things, because you can bring your company to these events, and you can learn a lot about where you are as far as your preparedness to be able to handle an incident of some sort.
And that one, let me pause there for a second, because I think I was reading recently a case study from Conres, and obviously the company was unnamed, but it was talking about, we talked earlier about how incidents can cost $4 million. In this case, it looked like the company didn't have any of the network security, didn't have any of the data and app security, and was relying largely on endpoint, and they had a breach, and it looked like it bricked almost all of their users for about a month, and they were losing billions of dollars. So, and that was something you guys jumped on from an incident response perspective and kind of got the company back up and running. And I mean, from the way I read it, more or less saved their business in just from the incident response perspective.
That's right. Yeah, that was quite an incident. And yeah, we came in, we provided incident response. We had an army of highly skilled security and networking engineers to help provide incident response, come up with a strategy to get the business back up and running. And ultimately, we improved their overall network security posture in the end. So to prevent another situation that could arise. And I think in the end, everybody learned quite a bit about it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that was, it had a lot to do with, endpoint, network, segmentation, putting, identity management, putting all those solutions in place, which would, which may have prevented it in the first place for sure.
Right. You only want to lose a few $1 billion once, right?
That's right. That's right. And they're in a much better place now.
So Aaron, so you've got the services section on the side, and I know you guys do all that kind of stuff, but even whether they're working with a partner or not, these things seem to be relevant for an in-house team or for you. So let's dive in a little bit about how you view the services from the Conres perspective, and then what that means for people working on these kinds of problems.
Yeah. So we touched already on the preparedness planning, right? Those things are all that would focus primarily around assessments, whether it be cloud, networking, backup assessments, pen tests, social engineering. We do a lot of training, right, for our customers as far as social engineering and audit compliance support, right, for our customers. Best practices around architecture and design are some of the others, especially with cloud. That's an area where where a lot of folks and IT professionals are having issues as far as like, what are, we're moving to the cloud, and how do we ensure that we're having the best architecture and design and following best practices from AWS and Azure and Google. So that's an important area. And I mentioned already, we talked about the incident response, the planning, and attending a cyber range attack simulation, which we can certainly offer. I myself have attended quite a few of those, and you learn a lot, and they're great events to attend, and they really help customers kind of jumpstart themselves into preparing for an incident. So yeah, so all those those advisory services are super important. But I think in the end, one thing that I think gets forgotten is backups, right? That's everyone takes that for granted, that they have good backups, but when you need them and you don't have them, it's a disaster, right? And then the last thing that I think is really important is establishing in advance who are you going to call, okay? And because I've seen this where customers, they have an incident and they spend 24, 48 hours trying to figure out who to call. And you've already wasted time, lost millions of dollars just not doing anything and just sitting in a room trying to determine who's the right vendor to call, who do we bring in, what type of services do we need. So having that in place ahead of time is really important.
Okay, makes sense.
Yep, and then around integration services, it's really it means end-to-end protection solutions across hybrid and multi-cloud. So it's not just putting something in place or having a strategy that only fits your branch office or only fits your your on-prem data center, but something that can work across all of your environments, okay? As well as, making sure that those solutions and services are optimized and tuned. Which brings me to my next topic around optimization and tuning, which is, again, often goes overlooked. And this kind of brings, the best way to illustrate this is to kind of talk about a cybersecurity threat life cycle. And I'd break this down into two things, pre-incident and post-incident. So pre-incident is all the things we've already talked about so far, is assessment, preparation, and prevention. Of course, no one wants to get attacked. They don't want to have an incident. So these are all those services we already talked about to help you so you don't have an incident of any sort. But if you do, you detect it, you provide an analysis on that threat or that alert, right? Or that event, and then how do you contain and remove it very fast? So this is the post-incident response. But where it dovetails into what I was mentioning about the optimization and tuning is the recovery and post-incident activity. It's feeding everything that you learned about that threat that got through, right? Something got through. You weren't able to do enough preparation, right, during the pre-incident phase. It got through, you analyzed it as a threat, you contained it, but now how do we take that and feed it back into the original step one, the first part of the process? How do we feed that information, tune our systems, improve them so that we can now improve the whole process and the life cycle of our security posture? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And when we're looking at this as you've coined it as the threat life cycle, but I assume this is also the way Conres approaches helping clients with their security infrastructure and their cloud.
That's right. Yep.